Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Divorce-a-Palooza. Divorce is hard. I mean, let's be honest. It's a process that takes a long time. You're dealing with painful emotions. You're dealing with decisions you have to make about the rest of your life. You've got kids to deal with possibly. You might be changing work situations. It's a lot, and we understand. So today, my guest and I are going to offer you 17 divorce tips that we think will help. And my guest is Karen Covey, who is a divorce and decision coach. She is a former practicing divorce attorney and mediator. And Karen is wonderful. And she wrote an article for Divorce Girl Smiling called Divorce is Hard 17 Divorce Tips We Think Will Help. So, hi, Karen.
Hey, Jackie. It's so fun to be here. Thank you for having me.
It is always nice to talk to you, Karen. And I know we've become friends. We've known each other for like 10 years and we are friends, but we weren't friends first. We were friends because we met through the business. But really, you are an amazing person. Used to be a divorce lawyer, decided that wasn't what you wanted to do. So now you help people get through a divorce, making the best decisions and hopefully providing them with the best possible outcome. What a great career.
Well, thank you. But I saw a gap in what people think their divorce lawyers are going to do and what the divorce lawyer is really going to do. And so I wanted to fill that gap. And look, divorce is never going to be easy. I don't care who you are, what your situation is. But if I can help make it easier for people with less conflict and more control, because when you're going through it, you feel like your whole life is out of control, right? So I
Absolutely.
want to give people their sense of control, their sense of self back, and help them get through the process better. So that's what I do now.
And also, when you get through the process better, you most likely end up having a better relationship with your ex-spouse, which you need to have as good of a relationship as possible if you have kids. And you have a better post-divorce life because you don't walk out of the divorce thinking, that was the worst thing that's ever happened to me. I mean, it probably will be, but you don't have to walk away thinking, oh, that was horrible every second.
Yeah, I mean, you don't, nobody wants their divorce to be their defining moment of the rest of their life, right? Yes, you'll look back and you'll think, well, that was really hard, but it was in the past. You don't want it to color every relationship, every interaction that you have with your ex, your relationship with your kids, your finances, your everything. That's not what anybody wants for their life. So, how you go through the process determines where you are when you end up and how you move forward into your new life because that's what you want to focus on.
Absolutely. So let's get to the tips. We have 17, but we don't have enough time to go through all of them, but we'll try to get through as many as possible. The first one you wrote is stay out of court. And I want to tell everyone watching, you might be thinking, but I want to go to court so I can tell the judge all the horrible things he did to me. So, Karen, tell everyone who's watching why they should try to stay out of court and why they're not really going to get to tell the judge anything.
That's why, because they're not going to get to tell the judge their story. Going to court is the most conflictual, so it's going to have the most emotion to it, the most anger, the most conflict. It's the most expense by far. And you give up total control of what happens because when you're going to court, you're saying to the judge, I can't make a decision with my spouse or my ex about whatever it is you're fighting about. Here, you make the decision for us. So what's going to happen is whatever the judge wants to have happen. Do you really want a stranger in a black robe who doesn't know you and doesn't know your kids and is going to give your whole case, 15 minutes, maybe a half an hour if it's a hearing, maybe if it's a whole trial, a day or two? Is that the person you want making decisions that are going to affect you for the rest of your life?
And they're also only hearing the story in a nutshell, 5 minutes, and then they're making a decision.
For sure. There are rules in court about what you can say, what you can't say, what evidence the judge hears, what comes in. It's you never get to tell your whole story the way you want to tell it. It's just bits and pieces And it often comes out wrong or disjointed, and you're like, no, I just want to be able to say what I want to say. You're not going to get that chance, right? So
And
do
mhm.
it, stay out of court.
And you are gonna get the chance if you go to mediation. Now, I'm not saying you're gonna go to mediation and you're gonna start spilling out everything your ex did and get, an hour to tell the mediator what your ex did, but you will get some of that, and you're gonna feel a lot more validated and heard if you go to mediation.
100% true. And if you want to get, if you have to figure out what are you trying to accomplish? If it's to get the best settlement possible, then get yourself a therapist and tell your therapist or your coach everything that you need to tell to get validated, because that's where it's going to happen. But if what you're trying to do is get a certain settlement or maximize the amount of money in your pocket at the end, or the amount of time with your kids or your relationship with your kids, then keep your eye on that goal and worry, deal with your emotional stuff in a different forum. That's, going to help you out a whole lot more.
And that's tip number 2, get a therapist, and I'm gonna add to this, and or a divorce coach, because then you're really gonna feel validated and heard, and you're going to be talking with someone who's gonna be listening to you and then helping you make the best decisions on what you're saying.
100%, because a therapist listens to your emotions and helps you deal with those emotions. A coach says, as a coach, I also listen to people's emotions and their stories, but I focus them on where are you going and how do you get through this divorce, this time in your life, so that you do it with the least amount of pain, the least amount of expense, and the most amount of control, so that at the end of the day, you're ready to start your new life. And I help people start their new life because that's where you want your focus to be, not on the pain of the divorce.
Absolutely. Okay, the next tip, be careful which lawyer you hire. Tell me about that.
One of the most influential people in your divorce is going to be your lawyer, right? And who you hire for your lawyer, how they handle your case is going to determine often what process you use, which I think is another tip. To pick your process first, then pick the lawyer that specializes in that. Otherwise, you're going to go through your divorce in whatever way the lawyer that you picked likes to do it, which might not be what you had in mind, right? So you want to make sure that you've picked a lawyer not only who's competent, right? That's basic. Somebody who knows the law and who knows the facts and knows what they're doing, but also someone who's on the same page as you. Somebody who wants to do this and help you do this in the way that you want to do it. That makes an enormous difference. And also, match the level of lawyering that you need, right? So if you've got a super complicated case, if you are high net worth and you've got complicated investments or a very complex situation with your children, you want to make sure you have lawyers and coaches and team members who can handle that, right? Versus if you just, you're a basic run of the mill situation, no problems with the kids, W2 employees, well then you don't need to pay for a lawyer who's going to be more expensive with that more experience if you don't need it, right? So you got to match the level of experience that you need in your case.
And also, you don't want like the shark attorney who it specializes in going to court and specializes in trials. Like I know a divorce lawyer, all he does is trials. If
Yep.
your situation is like what Karen just said, it's not too bad. You don't want him because he doesn't even have experience in helping you mediate your divorce. He's just going right to the courtroom. You might need him, but you have to be careful. It depends on your case.
Yeah, you've got to know what you're dealing with and understand that. If you're married to a high conflict spouse who just lawyered up and hired the biggest shark in town, you've got to have a lawyer who can match that lawyer, your spouse's lawyer, and go toe to toe with them in a courtroom. Otherwise, you're going to get hosed, right? And what's interesting is by having a lawyer who's at that level, who's an ace trial lawyer, that decreases the likelihood that you will actually go to trial. Because if the other lawyer knows they've got somebody good on the other side, they're more likely to try to settle because they're not so sure they're going to win.
Okay, and one more thing on this tip is that you wrote, "This is not the time to hire your grade school friend who's now a real estate lawyer." So, I know a lot of people who were like, "Oh, my buddy's a lawyer, I'm just gonna use him." The divorce ends up taking 10 times as long. The lawyer doesn't know what they're doing because they're a real estate lawyer, not a divorce lawyer. They
Yep.
don't know any of the judges. They don't know what's going on. And then it just becomes you think you're saving money, but really you're spending a lot more.
You're spending a lot more. There's a saying, it says, a good lawyer knows the law, a great lawyer knows the judge.
Oh, right. And also, you're not only, spending a lot more time, you're gonna get a much worse outcome if you
Oh,
hire.
100%. You
Mhm.
need somebody who understands. Now, depending on where you live, divorce and family law might not be the only thing that lawyer does. Especially if you live in a small town, lawyers tend to do everything there. But you don't want this to be your lawyer's first or second case ever, right? You want to make sure that you have somebody who knows what's going on, understands the ins and outs, knows the judges, knows the system.
Love it. Okay, we only have time for a couple more, so I'm gonna start picking and choosing here, and there's so many good ones, I'm like, "Ooh, I don't know what to pick." How about ditch the drama?
Yeah, divorce is dramatic. It is emotional, and you want to, like we've talked about already, you want to tell your side of the story and make everybody see how horrible your spouse is. I have to tell you, that's a very expensive way to go, and no one cares. I mean, I don't want to be rude about it, but like divorce professionals deal with this kind of stuff all the time. You don't want to have the reputation of being the craziest case in the courtroom, right?
Mhm.
That doesn't serve you or your family at all, and it's going to cost you a small fortune. So if you can get a handle on your own emotions and dial down the drama, it's your divorce is going to be easier, it's going to be smoother, it's going to cost less, it's going to take, less time. It's just going to be a better experience all the way around.
Right, and we understand that you're upset and you wanna scream and yell and you can't stand your ex and you're really pissed. We get it,
Yeah.
but you really have to try to tone it down, and that's what your divorce coach is for and your therapist and your girlfriends and your family. But the other thing you wrote here, Karen, is if you want a more peaceful divorce, you need to consciously walk away when your spouse wants to fight.
y-
Don't engage. So a lot of times people are so hurt that your spouse might do things just to get under your skin, just to annoy you purposely. Don't engage, don't get into that game.
Yeah, 100%. And I'll go a step farther. Your spouse is going to do those things because your spouse is hurt and you're going to want to do it back, right? And I get it. And it'll feel good in the moment, but then it makes a mess later on. So you want to figure out, right, going into this, do you want that momentary satisfaction or do you want long term peace and happiness?
Okay, we have time for one more tip, and I'm going to say stop trying to control your spouse.
Look, if you could have controlled your spouse while you were married, you probably wouldn't have been getting divorced, right?
And who no one can control anybody.
Yeah. I mean, we're all the only person you have any chance of controlling is yourself. So do yourself a favor. Worry about controlling you. Worry about, managing your own emotional triggers and your own emotional stuff and stop trying to change or control your spouse. It's not going to work. It's going to cost you a lot of energy trying to
Right.
do it. And you're going to be frustrated because in the end, you're going to say, they're doing whatever they want anyway. Of course they are. Worry about yourself, control yourself. And when you do that and your reactions change, the relationship between you and your spouse will also change because it has to. The energy is different. You're showing up differently, so they don't know what to do with this new person and they're going to act and react differently. That doesn't mean everything's going to be sunshine and kittens, but it'll throw them off balance more if you're controlled, if you're self-controlled, than if you're reacting the way you always react.
I'll never forget when I was getting divorced at the beginning. I called my sister and I was like going, he's doing this and he's doing this and he's turning the kids against me. And she goes, okay, can you do me a favor? I don't want to hear one more sentence that starts with he. I want to hear I am doing this. I'm going to the gym now. I'm going to enjoy my day. I'm going to start job searching. I'm going to do something with my kids when they get home from school. So, see the difference?
100% different, right? You are somebody you can control. And by focusing on yourself and being better yourself, I'll give you, a little tip. You're going to feel better. Regardless of what your ex is doing, you are going to feel better. You're going to show up as a better parent. You're going to, feel more at ease. You're going to start to, I know it sounds crazy when you're going through a divorce, but you're actually going to start to enjoy your life again.
I love it. Karen, thank you so much for being on Divorceapalooza.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's always such a great time talking to you. And I think we've covered so much ground for a short interview.
I know we have. Tell the people who are watching how they can reach you best if they want to have a consult with you, and they want divorce coaching, or they want your roadmap, divorce roadmap 3.0.
Yeah, the Divorce Roadmap is an online program, and I also offer individual private coaching. The best place to find all of it is at my website, KarenCovey.com. That's KarenCovy.com.
And you can also find Karen in the trusted professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling at divorcedgirlsmiling.com.